Den Hollander joins us in the studio. Pressures of parenting and all that strange, stupid decisions that we make over Christmas. Welcome. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me back on the show.
And I'm really glad you are here. Because I was reconciling my childhood since Friday. I went to see The Sound of Music with my wife, and she became animated. Her face literally lit up, and I could see her reconciling her childhood. She was telling the story about how her dad had introduced her to this musical, and how that whimsical first half, made her float. She didn't understand the second half because there were men with guns and there was mystery there, but it profoundly impacted her life, and I felt denied. I felt denied. Wow. My dad didn't give me The Sound of Music. I had to go watch Bruce Lee, and Walking Tall and stuff like that. And I have issues with that. I have issues with my mom. I want people to spend all their bonuses and take the kids to go and see it. I think every primary school child needs it. And especially if you can take an underprivileged child to go and see The Sound of Music, it's going to fire their imagination. I think it's a great investment. Do you feel me? I was denied that.
Yeah, I feel you. I do actually really feel you. I think I watched Sound of Music about 6 months ago, and I had a very deep nostalgic feel to it. So I understand what you mean is to be denied that, and to be denied songs that sort of defined do re mi is the best way of learning how to sing songs,
Absolutely. And I saw it for the very first time on Friday. And I was invested for 2 hours and 50 minutes.
It's quite a story, huh?
It is quite a story. I think great set design, of course, great, just beautiful, absolutely whimsical. And I needed that when I was a kid. Not Bruce Lee.
No, not Bruce Lee.
So can I take my mother to court for this?
I think if we take our mothers to court, the courts would be inundated. But then we'd have to dig up the graves because they'll take their mothers to court and they will take their mothers to court. So I suppose it never really ends, That
should be a gift of Christmas.
It should be.
Not a toy that's going to be broken a week later.
Amen.
The smile, a forever smile of a kid, rather than a smile for a day or two.
Yeah. There's something about that. I think when we were thinking of what topic to give this, because it'll be the final one for the year, right? It made me think nostalgically back to my family, and there's a quote from Steve Biko. I mean, I wouldn't be Daniel if I don't quote Biko somewhere in the. And I'm going to tell the story, but in the light of his quote. So the quote goes, "Innovation is part of the natural development of any culture. A culture is essentially society's composite answer to the varied problems of life. We are experiencing new problems every day, and whatever we do adds to the richness of our cultural heritage, as long as it has the human at its center." Now, I did say in one of the previous, I'm a storyteller by heart. So when I grew up in my parents' house, my parents had a tradition because I was born in the Netherlands, and the tradition that we had was something called Sinterklaas, which my mother had huge reservations against, because basically two of the things that comes part of that is that you have to sit on the knee of a archbishop and blackface painting. And she, in our family, was very uncomfortable with these traditions and culture that had gone on for many generations, sort of very fixated, as fixated as, I suppose, Father Christmas would be for the Americans and for the Brits. And she actually completely reinvented the traditions towards our family.
That's so cool.
In order to teach us.
You were denied Father Christmas. You have issues too.
No. Towards ethics and morality and principles that she held so strongly to. We were living in South Africa, but before that, my family history was, from my grandmother's side, was quite active in the trade embargo and boycotting in order to bring pressure to what was happening in South Africa at the time. And so my mother took away those symbols and replaced it with the ethics of family getting together. And the one part of the tradition that she really enjoyed was that in Christmas, you don't give things that are extremely expensive. It's 2 gifts per person. One gift is a bit of a spoil, and the other gift is something useful. So I remember over the years, I got a lunchbox as a present. I got I once got dishwashing liquid as a present, as a joke present.
I thought I had.
But part of the gift was also to take a bit of the Mickey out of you, to have a bit of fun with you. So she said, the dishwashing liquid was also a way of, it was never going to be put to use because I never did the dishes anyway, so sort of poking fun. But every single one of the presents had a riddle with them. And you had to guess the riddle, guess the present with the riddle. And so this became a sort of a 2.5 hour thing of giving presents to each other one at a turn, reading the riddle, trying to work out what it was. And what ended up happening was it was 2.5 hours with the family all together, no alcohol involved, just enjoying each other's company.
It took you a while to make sense of it. Now your adult mind makes complete sense of it. As a child, it doesn't. We need a TRC for mothers.
It as a child.
Mothers must come and appear in front of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It's not fair.
I remember so clearly, I went and watched Jonathan Butler do a show at the Playhouse, at the Natal Playhouse. And I never understood Bob Marley's song, No Woman, No Cry. And he said that he used to play the song when his mother was trying to make ends meet and was so busy with the struggles of trying to just get everything in place and realizing that even though she worked hard to get the struggles, to get, food on the table, she didn't have enough for the presence that was necessary. And he said, she sneaked outside and was at the street lights and started to cry. And young Jonathan Butler with a guitar went to her and sang to her, No Woman, No Cry. And he did a rendition for us there. And that brought the song home to me. I think our parents do the best that they can. Not always. I know that there's also neglect and abuse. But I think sometimes it's a bit unavoidable to not, in some way, traumatize your kids at some point in your parenting. Parents make mistakes. What I think is important and what helps is when the parents can acknowledge the mistakes later on when the kids start asking. Because that's where healing comes in.
Sure. And it's not as if they are issued a manual.
No.
We're chatting with Daniel Den Hollander. We're talking about not just the pressures of parenting, but I guess the pressures of family that comes to bear as well. Maybe thinking differently about presence. I think it's so important. I suggested, for example, that the challenge of the future requires our action now, and maybe that present should be that paying it forward. And keeping the smiles on the young people, because it's their future that we have compromised. You're welcome to be part of the conversation via WhatsApp at 072-567-1567. I know there's a voice note in. But somebody writes, my daughter is 12 years old, and if I tell her to come to the opera with me, she looks horrified. Okay, then there's that as well. And yeah, if you want to be part of the conversation, you can call as well at 021-446-0567. Should your mother go to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission? They only had their best intentions, and I think sometimes it was clumsy, and of course, always forgivable.
Yeah, I realize my mother might be listening in, so I must just put the disclaimer. Don't worry, I didn't get cheated out of Christmas presents. I had some epic Christmas presents over the years. Yeah, I think so. I think also within the South African context, we must always remember, I mean, it's a great quote from Biko about material want is bad enough, but coupled with spiritual poverty, it kills. And I think it was a different time. It was an oppressed time. And I think that kills the spirits. And nothing brings that out more than around the Christmas time, because Christmas is about spirits. But you can't just manufacture a spirit when you're constantly oppressed. And as we say as well, that the living conditions and the working conditions, and couples in a bit with last week's conversation about wat sal die mense sê, is when we give gifts on the basis of trying to compensate for something that we feel that we are lacking, then the heart of that gift and the heart of giving is out. And that kids pick that up so quickly. When something comes from the heart or something comes from the supermarket, they pick it up.
Yeah. At 10:53, Daniel Den Hollander, my guest, and we touch base with him regularly. And there's a reason for that. I think we've discussed mental health and how difficult times are, and how a lot of us, I think all of us, are walking around with a condition. We remain undiagnosed, unaware how we are dealing with demons. How it's manifesting. So this is about touching base, really, having a conversation. We can't do Christmas the way we've done it in the past. I don't understand that man with the white beard at all, and the red suit. Never did. I understand why some kids instinctively cry when they see him.
Yeah.
Because his beard is fake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only reason he's red and white is because that was the color of Coca-Cola. That's a well-publicized thing. And I was also listening to our conversation the conversation at 2:45, and I just thought, my garden renovation was buying for 400 rand a wooden compartment to be able to grow tomatoes. I think the difficulty also is that it all sounds so bougie. It all sounds so lavish, the expectation of where we need to be. And then we come to this time of the year and we feel that whatever we give is not enough. And I think, that is such a terrible place to be in. I mean, especially with the fact that we have to almost have two incomes in order to survive. Time with our kids is really becoming more and more an absolute delicacy, an absolute need for our kids. And we will short circuit that. And for what? That old saying of, when are we going to realize that we can't eat money,
But how do we temper that exuberance? It comes with the season. The exuberance is there because the energy is such. How do I tell myself, you got to pull yourself towards yourself? How do we do that? How do we manage the exuberance?
I think it starts with putting the perspective back into yourself. So like we said, if you can have room from our last conversation of wat sal die mense sê, if you can stop having that external gaze onto yourself and start to really work within yourself, we need to reprioritize. That's what the lockdown taught us, was we're working in jobs we don't actually like. And side hustles are a necessity, and stop working for free, stop working over the time and taking away time from your family if you're not being paid for that anyway. And once we start putting those balances in place, then what happens is that Christmas becomes a reflection of the year rather than, and I've been taught this year, rather than a change of lifestyle that you do for a few weeks every year. That's very tough to put into place.
We are running out of time, but I do have Clifford on the line. Clifford, go ahead. We're listening. He's disappeared. But another message. We do Christmas different every year. One year we took gifts to an orphanage. Another year we had sandwiches at the beach. Another year it was pajama day because we all got new PJs and we listened to carols and played card games, dominoes. Such great memories. Maybe there's an idea.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it's time now that we change a bit of our traditions and our culture, reinvent them a little bit for where we're at. As long, and this is important, as long as we keep the ethics and the principles of what we're doing in place.
Yeah.
maybe that's a little bit of where we started with, is that the ethics and the principles, it's not so much that she stopped you from seeing Sound of Music, but it was that Sound of Music got replaced with Bruce Lee.
It wasn't
an issue.
Her life.
Yeah.
As a woman from a rural community, it wasn't her life.
It wasn't her life, yeah.
She was denied that too.
But also, I wonder if she was able to give you what was her life as well. The traditions that she was raised up as a kid.
Yeah. She taught me to scrub the floors from a very young age, which is another thing for another date. We need a full hour for that conversation.
Agreed.
We're going to wrap it there. Okay, thank you, Daniel Den Holland. Pressures of parenting, but also looking at family pressure. Just talking about a whole lot of stuff that comes with the season. And sometimes we don't necessarily understand it, but hey, it's done.